Hi, everyone. So welcome to this panel. We're going to be discussing the progress made on digital inclusion across Latin America, but also in the Latin community here in the United States, and why all of this matters to both countries and businesses alike. We have limited time, but I'd like to encourage each of you to jump in and comment on anything that sparks your interest throughout the panel. So for my first question, I'd like to get your takes on what's ahead in 2025 for our emerging markets and really tough monetary conditions that we're overcoming since the pandemic. The consensus now is that lower rates will bring more abundant liquidity for companies in our emerging markets. I'd like to ask each of you if you agree with that premise and how you'll be looking to leverage that scenario from your companies to double down on growth, but also digital inclusion. We can start with João.
Okay. Good morning. Does it work?
No. We have a microphone here. We can start with...
Hello?
Oh,
yes. Okay, so good morning. Thanks for having us on the panel. It's partially true that the interest rates are going down in Latin America. For instance, in Brazil, where Inter is headquartered, the rates are actually going up. They were going down, but they're going up, they're moving up. But on the other hand, I don't think that this is a headwind for innovation and digitalization. I would say that innovation and digitalization don't necessarily need lower rates. As we were watching on the last panel, the technology is available today. It's cheap, it's not expensive. And we realized that I can mention about what we did at Inter in terms of innovation, in terms of bringing people to the banking system. We did that through the last 10 years, and in that period we had the rates going up and down. But at the end of the day, we were able to get access to this top-notch technology. We were very innovative in order to build the solutions to help our clients. So I would say that what we should do as a leader in our company is to try to foster innovation among our corporation, among our countries, in order to, despite of the interest rate, help to bring more quality of life for our clients, our citizens, and so on. So I would say that I don't see interest rate as a headwind.
So not even in the US market?
No, in the US market, it's a different scenario. I'd say that the rates now are hopefully moving down, going down. But I think it's the same, that the same logic applied to the United States. I mean, when you see the most technology, most advanced companies in the US also, they were growing, they were propelling in a low rate scenario, in a high rate macro environment. So I don't see the rates as a big headwind, and not even a tailwind for that. So I believe that the technology that's abundant today is the main tool for the companies to digitalize, to innovate, and so on.
Juan Pablo, what about you? You're based in Central America, but operations throughout the region.
Yes. First, thank you very much for the invitation. I had the opportunity to participate in last year conference, and I think that a topic from a year ago was that in Latin America we have the opportunity to feed and fuel the world. I think that despite all the challenges, I think that a year after, a common topic that we have been discussing here is that technology is advancing faster than what everyone thought. In the morning, we heard that ChatGPT, if we think about it, is like an app, like an Uber app on a smartphone. So we have been moving a lot faster. And I think that that's a very important thing for Latin America, because we can leap many years, but one of the most important things is that we put social progress and prosperity in the center of these advancements and leverage on the technology. There cannot be success in a failed society. So we need to use all this technology, the conviction of the new generation to capitalize on all the opportunities that we have in Latin America, but by driving inclusion and prosperity. We reach at Grupo Mariposa millions of SMEs, and we believe that there is a unique opportunity to enhancing and helping both at the private sector and public sector level, the SMEs, the true entrepreneurs of Latin America through technology. And that's what we are optimistic about for the next 5 years.
Paula?
Yeah, so first of all, it's a pleasure to be here, back to Council of the Americas after some years without participating. Let me just put some context. So as AWS, what we were hearing from our customers especially during the pandemic, to your question, was that many of the companies in Latin America were looking into cost optimization, right? Everybody was super concerned during the pandemic in looking at their cost structures and being more efficient so that they could be able to get out of that period more efficient and prepared for what would be next. Nobody knew. We are very, very glad as AWS to help our customers on the cost optimization. But the conversation today completely changed, right? Companies like yours, you are driving the conversation towards innovation, towards continue to transform the business, towards building new business models. So this is happening in Latin America. And especially connecting to the previous presentation right now, with AI is going to be even more. So I completely agree with you that we will have to take this opportunity where the companies in Latin America are looking into innovation and do a leapfrog. And this is the biggest opportunity in Latin America. How are we going to use technology for a purpose, technology to put the productivity? I have a point around productivity that I'd love to share with you later on, but how are we going to use technology to propel our business in terms of productivity and have an even bigger impact in the world, beyond Latin America, right? Latin American companies to the world. I think this is the conversations that we are hearing today.
Alejandro, do you think the rate environment across the region, based on what's happening with the Fed in the United States and the trickle-down effect, will that support the investment climate?
Before addressing that, Francisco, I wanted to thank the organizers for bringing this topic to a discussion table. But rather than discussing, I would encourage us all to take immediate action together, because, financial conditions may help, but we are living in a moment where we actually have a digital imperative, where technology is reaching every aspect of our lives, where every single organization is becoming a tech company. And we need to tackle these challenges where technology should be available to every single person in the region and in the planet, where technology can be used as a tool for good, take advantage of what technology offers us, and offer people the opportunity to be great users and creators of technology. So this time requires us to lead by the example. Business is, in fact, the greatest platform for change, and we need to work together towards giving a solution to this digital divide that may come up of this technology moment that we are living.
Andrés, I'm assuming at McKinsey you're following these trends very closely. What's your take?
Well, the question is if the rates going down are going to boost investment and going to boost the digitization of Latin America. And I would say that not necessarily. Something else has to happen, not only lowering the rates. And the reason is, if you just take a look of the 20 years before pandemic, rates were quite low. And there was a lot of growth on the balance sheet of the world. In fact, it grew 3 times faster than global GDP. Became, by the end of 2020, around 600% GDP. But that money that was basically leveraging and excess savings did not necessarily went to investment. It went basically to asset repricing on real estate and variable income. And why that matters? It's not only that there's a decoupling that is in his historical moment, it's because investment is key for growth. And that investment is not necessarily coming, especially in Latin. What has happened in Latin? Before pandemic and now in pandemic, with low interest rates and with high interest rates, we have had a lack of investment relative to the rest of the world and lack of quality investment. How big is that gap? Latin investment is around 20% of GDP. At 20% GDP, we will not grow faster than 1.5% or GDP for the next 25 years. In order to really grow faster, we need to expedite investments and be able to invest at least 10 more points of GDP. For a 6 trillion GDP for Latin America, it would be around $600 billion in additional investment in Latin America every year to be able to grow at 4 or 5%. And that was with low interest rates. So chances that just because low interest rates are coming back, we're going to increase and see that size of investment? Not necessarily. We're going to have to work much faster and much harder in many other aspects, and I'll just mention a couple just to continue. One, of course, is aligning the public agenda and saying why is so important to invest fast and to create the conditions for investment in the region. Out of the investment that we have seen in Latin America, 80% comes from the private sector. So it is key to work together with the private sector in every other country in Latin to build the alliance between the public sector to provide the conditions and for the private sector to continue investing at that level, number one. And number two is not only attracting, it's the quality of investments. Talking about technology and digitalization, the most important thing there is to participate in the arenas of competition where 80% of the investment is going, where 80% of the new jobs of high quality salaries are being created, and we have not been part of that. We're just on the demand side, distributing technology and using technology, and not on the supply side, being part of the value chains of producing the technology. That's why it's so important.
Andrés, I'd like to ask you, based on what you said, which are the markets in Latin America that you say are leading the discussion or setting the agenda, the public agenda, to the greatest extent to align that investment?
I mean, there are several markets and several countries that are doing the right things, but none of us is doing enough in that sense. So building the infrastructure, the minimum infrastructure, of course, implies having at least the rails. And then you see countries like Brazil, Argentina, and Chile having nowadays more than 80% internet penetration, which is really good. Countries like Chile and Colombia having 120% mobile lines per 100 people. So you're starting to see that the rails are there. Now we have to move into the conditions to create investment opportunities so you use those rails. And it means that not only the large companies that are doing the work, I mean, everybody on this room is doing what it has to be done. But we just represent 0.01% of companies in Latin. The issue is the SMEs. Are the SMEs really taking advantage of this? Are they participating in this industrial revolution? Do they know what AI is going to do and how it's going to change the world? I don't think so. Do they have the commitments, the financial inclusion opportunities so they can leverage themselves and really participate? And most important, do we have the talent? Because at this level, we have the talent. Many of our companies go and study, bring consultants, bring bankers, do whatever we have to do, bring talent from other parts of the world. But again, 99.9% of our companies do not have access to that talent, and not necessarily the policies that we're promoting in the region are moving in that direction. So yes, in terms of infrastructure, we're moving in the right direction. No, in terms of the framework to bring investment at the right speed, none of our countries is doing it better than our real competitors, which are the Asians, the Middle East, Eastern Europe, at this moment.
Touching on what you said, another question for all of you. Much of Latin America is still underserved, both in terms of digital and financial services, to varying degrees, obviously, from the US Latin community down to Argentina and Chile. How much of that issue, how much of a limitation is that to economic growth in our markets? João, we can begin with you.
So it's a very good question. I would say that we do have this opportunity, but on the other hand, what we see, for instance, in Brazil and for instance in my sector, the banking sector, we were able to catch up very fast. So as of today, you have, for instance, Pix. I don't know if everyone's familiar, but something that was amazing. We're able to put everyone, literally everyone in Brazil, into the banking system, into the payment system, and with that, we're able to help them, these individuals, this small, mid-sized enterprise, to propel and to grow their business. They were able also to pay taxes. I mean, they want to pay tax. They were not paying tax because they were not on the banking system. So we really, I was really observing what happened in Brazil due to the use of technology, to the use of data, to the use of good regulation from for instance, from the central bank. And so when you combine technology, you combine good policy from the government, the people are prone to start using these products, this service, either on banking, traveling, lodging, whatever. So it's very good when we have everything aligned. And I can say that it's hard to do assessment how much more base points on the GDP Brazil had won due to the PIX, but I'm sure that's a lot. So it's a very good example of how you build value on a society when you combine these two things: technology, good regulation, and I mean, as we have mentioned here before, we have 650 million people in the Latin America region ready to use that, prone to use that. The technology there, the 5G is there, the smartphones are cheaper. So it's only a matter of combining these two things to, at the end of the day, improve the quality of life of hundreds of millions of people. This is very important.
Juan Pablo, it obviously has an impact on prosperity and economic growth, but it also limits the amount of clients that you can reach from your business. What's your take on all of this?
So let me give you an example of the untapped potential and the big opportunity. We visit daily millions of these small tiendas. And if you go to a community, to a tienda, I always say that the entrepreneurs are true heroes because, as Paula was mentioning, they open the store early morning. There's a lot of problems to get access to public education, to public health. Then they have challenges in some areas in Latin America, security challenges. And despite of all that, they open the store every day. They have to receive many of the suppliers of basic need products. They have to take care of the money. They have to take care of the clients that come and visit the store. By the way, the clients, the tienda, it's a very important, it's the heart and soul of the community because it's who gets their basic need products. So imagine helping this entrepreneur with technology. In many countries in Latin America, we see that when cell phone penetration started growing fast, it was a breakthrough. So in many tiendas, didn't have electricity and they have cell phones. So imagine if we work together and we turn these small tiendas and help these entrepreneurs to become integrated hubs where not only you can offer affordable wellness products, but also services, help bring education to the communities, financial inclusion. It's a key enabler for these SMEs to develop and to grow. So I think that we haven't measured the potential of the digital transformation for the SMEs. And I think that this could really strengthen the value proposition of being formal. In Latin America, it's hard to be formal because all the challenges, structural challenges that you have. But I think that through technology, through the work of the public and private sector, we need to strengthen the value proposition of the formal sector. People, they are entrepreneurs, they are dreamers, and they would take any opportunity to have a better future for the families. But today, it's a challenge with all the challenges that we have, and we can change that.
Pablo, what's the impact that you're seeing from AWS when a client goes from informal or semi-informal to formal, maybe by hiring some of the services that you offer?
Yes. So I think we are having a very interesting dialogue, and I tend to agree that when all the investment, all the barriers that we see for Latin America is super challenging, but we have real examples across the region of when technology is established and public sector and private sector are working together, this creates more opportunity. And I think João was mentioning the financial services framework in Brazil completely changed and actually brought more people to the purchase power, to the digital economy. If you think of what is happening with the established business, all our customers, well, João is our customer here. I think also Grupo Mariposa is great to hear our customers here talking about the importance of technology, but technology in service of something that is transformational, right? So this is happening in Latin America, although I agree that there are challenges. I think we are starting to see Latin America leading the way in some industries. Financial services is one industry, retail is another industry, right? If you think about some of the biggest names worldwide already in retail, some are from Latin America, right? For example, Mercado Libre, for example. So, and this is also not only retail, but cross-industry transformation. So what we are seeing from AWS standpoint is that we are a company of builders. So we like to enter on the business of our customers with our customers and help them build the solutions that are going to transform. We are seeing that those solutions are really transforming the ecosystem. More people. Now we have other challenges like productivity, talent, education. We can talk more about those, but this is what we are seeing, and I'm optimistic to see that, as you were mentioning, Juan Pablo, we can leapfrog right now because technology is available. If we have technology plus education, right, plus this framework between public sector and private sector, we can make it, right, and we could leapfrog.
Alejandro, you're from Argentina like me, where the informal economy is estimated somewhere near 40% of GDP. What's the impact that you're seeing when a client takes on a formal service like Salesforce?
It's a real opportunity to turn things upside down. So a big amen to what my co-panelists just said. And take, for example, the fear that many people have about the loss of jobs due to the days that we are living. I would see the other side of the coin and think of the opportunities that come out of the moment in history we are living on, and try to think of a way where we would create employment of quality for Latin Americans, making possible the dream that people would have to live the story they have been always thinking of. So how can we together with governments creating the conditions for this to happen? Because a set of rules needs to be made available to make this possible. But how can we together give massive visibility to the opportunities that exist to land a new job or to reconvert your existing job to the new reality, then help those people be trained in these new skills. Everyone with our own ecosystems, we can make that possible. Many of us have either free or paid for tools to make that possible, and then do the last mile, which to me is the most important part of it, which is not only digital literacy, but rather helping trained people land or re-land a job within this new digital economy. So making that process end-to-end, all the parties working together, tech companies, because we do have like this moral duty to lead with example, but virtually any company interested in what to do with the situation of their current workforce and future prospective employees to be brought into that ecosystem. It's a matter of us working together and thinking of that process end-to-end. Major opportunity.
Andrés, from the consultancy side, to what extent are you seeing lack of digitalization and formalization limiting economic growth and prosperity?
A lot, especially around the financial inclusion discussion that we were having here. For several reasons. I mean, at the end, there are at least 3 reasons to me why this is relevant, especially the digitization of the cash flows and the financial flows. The first one is that when you borrow money, you are allowed to spend based on your future income today. So that creates consumption. And you need consumption. In Latin America, you need a lot of consumption. Healthy consumption, of course, not over-leveraging. Then, as a company, you need to have a market, you need to have talent, you need to have knowledge, and you need to have capital. And borrowing is the way to grow when you need capital. So you need access to credits, and you have to be financially included as a company as well. And the third reason is because we cannot continue being a society of 50% formal and 50% out of the loop. And financial inclusion is one of the fastest ways, if not the fastest, to include people into the economy and make sure that they start being part of the economy. So reducing that 50% of our people that are outside. What is going on at this moment? We have improved a lot. I mean, only in the past 10 years, we went from 30% of Latin Americans having a bank account to 70% of us having a bank account. That's a huge move. Is that enough? Not, but it's the right move. Why is that not enough? Almost 50% of the lowest income people in Latin, they still don't have a bank account. Out of the ones who have a bank account, they have a credit card, many of them. But still, even though 60% of Latins have a credit card, only 10% have access to credit outside credit cards, or outside financial consumption. So the reality is that financing companies is still very difficult in Latin America. So it is extremely important to continue advancing at that speed. It is starting at the right way. It's moving from 30 to 70. The growth of the fintechs has been around 250% in only 10 years, but it's much more from the consumption side, not necessarily from the SME side that we need so they can deploy the investments on technology and on talent that they need to really participate in the economy.
João, I'd like to ask you, what lessons does Brazil have to offer in terms of banking people, right? Because the progress made there has been phenomenal, and traditional banks have always been a bit more reluctant to attack that segment that Andrés was just mentioning.
Yes, I would say that maybe it's a combination of things. We didn't have a silver bullet to solve this problem. Actually, it's not solved yet. We improved a lot. Still need to keep working on. But a good combination between the policymakers. So I believe that the way the central bank behaved in the past 10 years was very, very good. Helped a lot. Also, I would say that Brazil, due to the high inflation, I would say that the bank sector was very advanced in adopting new technologies, in managing their processing, their payments. So they were ready for that. And then we had the the cost of technology dropping significantly with cloud and everything. So at the end of the day, this good combination, again, from private sector, from public sector, from the regulators, I would say that was the key element for helping Brazilians to improve their ability to get banked. And not only get banked, but we normally say that we used to have unbanked population and underbanked population. So if you get a client that is not well banked and you improve his debt service, his cost to do payments, you bring a lot of value. So, and we see that Brazil is a roadmap, a benchmark for other central banks, for other economies around the world. And that's it. I mean, we really think that if countries, for instance, like United States, let's not talk about Latin America, if they could implement the same type of technology for payments, I would say that is going to be very helpful for most of the underbanked population here in the US as well.
I'm assuming all of that learned experience from Brazil, you're translating into your expansion here in the US. I'm also curious to ask how successful your big marketing push has been in captivating the attention of the Latin community here. You've done a lot of partnerships with sports teams like Orlando City. How has that gone?
Yes, that's totally true. We're trying to leverage on what we learned in Brazil and what we have built in Brazil in terms of technology, the infrastructure, the IT infrastructure, all the backbone. Of course, we have all these localization things that we need to address from one country to the other. But this is what we're trying to replicate here. And again, as you mentioned, trying to get the opportunity of having this underbanked Latino population in the United States, the guys that work hard, the guys in the tendas, and they really need to improve their bank relationship. So far, it has been working very well. We're not there yet. Still need to keep improving the product. At the end of the day, it's all about the product. So we're very obsessed with the best UI, the best UX. So it's convenience for the clients at the end of the day. But very good to see that in 1.5, 2 years we have improved a lot. We have achieved our goals, but still a lot to do here in US soil.
Juan Pablo, I think we've established that digital inclusion is crucial for your business and to many other businesses. What are the main initiatives that you're promoting from Grupo Mariposa with your partners, your clients, to drive that process forward?
So our purpose at Grupo Mariposa is unleashing value, all the value that there is in the region to catalyze inclusive growth and prosperity. And as I mentioned before, we are very optimistic about catalyzing the SMEs, how to improve with technology, have affordable wellness, and I think that there is a big opportunity to go faster by having an open mindset and really thinking about how can we accelerate the construction of the ecosystems. And for us, it's been very important to have that open mind, to develop partnerships. We work very close with PepsiCo, and we are investing and learning together with technology companies, startups. So I think that there's an opportunity to develop these collective mindset frameworks so that we can move faster. We always say that there are leaders and companies that have the intention, but they have a hard time articulating the vision and explaining to get resources and to get things done. You can really articulate a good vision, but the name of the game is the execution. So one of the things that we are spending a lot of time is how to develop these collaboration networks with all the advancements in technology, with all the changes, with all the investments needed to really gain more scale and really move the needle in the digital transformation with a customer-centric approach. That's for us, it's very important.
Paula, AWS has been expanding consistently across the region for the last 15 years or so. You now have headquarters in each of the major markets, the largest economies. How far along has cloud adoption come along in that time? And what are the main challenges that you're facing going forward?
Yes. So, Francisco, you're right. So, AWS has been investing in the region for almost 15 years. We have offices across the region, and we continue to implement more offices. We are getting new offices in Mexico, new offices in Colombia as well. I think the big thing is very early in the game, we invested, because we are talking about infrastructure and technology. AWS has invested ahead of time in a data center infrastructure in Brazil. We have local regions across many of the countries that we operate. And we just announced an investment of $5 billion in a data center in Mexico as well. So our commitment to the region is just, it's there and it's certain. It has been there for a while. Why we do that? Because our customers are asking us for us to do that, right? Our customers are really eager to continue to transform. And for us, we are a global company. Latin America is a reference. So I want to make sure that I lay out some positive message as well. Right? You see here great references of companies that are transforming, and that's why we keep committing to Latin America. Now, there are challenges, and I want to address that to your point. So the challenge of Latin America has to do with productivity. If you look at the productivity today of our countries, they are lower compared to other countries, mature markets, developed markets. And the big issue is that the developed markets, economies, they continue to accelerate the productivity. Why? Because they are adopting technology faster than what we are doing in Latin America. So we are growing at 20% the ratio in Latin America in terms of productivity compared to the rest of the world. So this is one challenge. And I think technology, once again, can help. Because when you think about productivity, you think about infrastructure, technology, and human capital. So technology can help in one part. The other part is the human capital. Latin America is one of the regions with the biggest gap in terms of talent ready to act upon this new technology that is widely available. So I agree with you, Alejandro, that we need to act. We do have a commitment globally of training 30 million people. We actually already trained 31 million people. This includes Latin America. 2 million people were trained here. And I think this is just the beginning. We don't do that alone. I think, once again, the framework to have the partnerships between the private sector, doing that with our customers, with the governments of Latin America, that's the way to continue to propel for us to achieve this productivity. We continue to be bullish about the region with more investments and more available to build things with our customers. For us, customer obsession is really the center of everything that we do.
Alejandro, government relations are clearly key. You lead government relations at Salesforce. What are the main insights that you can share with us about your conversations with policymakers? And is there a secular trend that overpowers any lack of interest or prioritization from governments?
Yes, thank you. So I think we are doing a lot on our own, but we need to do a lot more together. We have these encouraging examples of programs that we at the company have put in place together with governments that have transformed the lives of people and their families. So that is encouraging. But we need to find a way to grow that at bigger scale. You know, as we have our own online free platform that is called Trailhead, where you can be trained in the skills that are needed for the future, which is actually the present. I think that the rest of the companies and the ecosystems can work together in making this grow at scale and taking example of these programs that we are leading in the region with our ecosystem, because I see companies here in this room that are working with us on that, such as Globant or Cloud Gaia. This should grow much bigger. And another encouraging thing is that a couple of weeks ago, during LATAM Ministerial Summit, that took place in Montevideo, there was this private sector panel where the members of the so-called UNESCO Business Council for the Ethics of AI, an initiative led by UNESCO, to which we are a party and to some other companies also are a party, we committed to take action at scale on this. And the governments have embraced this project. So hopefully by the time these LATAM ministers get together again in April in the Dominican Republic, we would be able to show some results of this collaborative type of work. And hopefully many, many more companies and organizations would join this crusade, and that this business council in the future would be composed by maybe, why not all of you?
Andrés, what's your view on the reception of governments and policymakers understanding that this needs to be a priority in terms of the gap in which we're not adopting quickly enough these new technologies?
I think the governments are not ready. They are not yet prepared, neither they understand the change that is happening. And I mean, we heard it just a minute ago from Mr. Israel from Bank of America. We're at the verge of a change that is going to completely transform our lives and our livelihoods. And it's a transformation that is not going to stop. It's a transformation that would imply also a very important and relevant geopolitical game that is happening across the globe. Nowadays, 80% of the transformation is being driven by two countries, 65% by US, 15% by China. And this is going to continue. If you see the last 15 years, the value created by the companies in these two countries represent 80% of the value created in the world, or more. And it's very, very concentrated, a winner takes it all. That will probably continue happening, but there's something that we have not seen in LATAM and that our governments, because we are distracted on the right and left discussions, have not really have a long-term vision, and it's basically that all starts in LATAM. And why do I say that? In order to be able to build the next 20 arenas of competition that are going to represent that 80, 90% of the value created in the world, all of them, from aerospace to EVs to the next e-commerce wave to everything else, will need our resources. They need our nickel, they need our lithium, they need our energy, or rare materials, or water, or food. We are the rich continent. We are the rich continent. We are just not capturing the value added out of that richness. And that is something that we have to change, and it's a long-term perspective of how LATAM has to think geopolitically and work together to insert in the global conversation. Because nowadays, because we're distracted on that, because our governments are not thinking on that, because frankly the private sector has decided not to participate in politics, so we are not part of the discussion, then those resources go at zero. How much is worth for oxygen? Zero. On every cup that we have, is being discussed how to mitigate CO2. What about the stock of oxygen that belongs to LATAM? How much is it worth? Zero, just as an example on sustainability. So on every other discussion, we're lacking that long-term vision and strategy that the Chinese already have, that the Indians are already having, that some of the Africans are already having, that for sure the Middle East is having, and needless to say, the Americans. And there's no reason why we cannot start thinking that way. And that is a commandment to this group. We have the long-term vision. 80% of the groups is private sector. How do we manage our companies? Not on a 4-year period, that is really 2-year period. It's a long-term policy and a strategy behind it on all these topics. There's no reason why we should not be a rich continent.
I have a final question. We only have a minute and a half, so if you could please be brief. I would like to ask you how much tax burdens and high levels of bureaucracy weigh down on any positive intent or prioritization that countries and companies might have to digitalize.
A ton.
Okay?
That was brief.
Of course, I mean, you want to bring investment at the level that we need. I'm talking about trillions of dollars that have to come to the region. You need to have the three basic pieces of bringing investment. One, opportunities, of course. But nobody's going to invest if you don't trust in an economy, if you don't trust in a platform, if you don't trust in a country. So trust means confidence. And confidence means, one, safety, for sure. And second, rules, stable rules. So I don't mind paying taxes, of course. I can transform those taxes into a WACC and define what is my hurdle rate, and based on that, if that is a good business or not. What I cannot handle is one reform per year, not knowing what my WACC is, and then telling my investors, sorry, you could win between minus 40 and plus 25. No, you're gonna tell me no. Tell me it's 10 or 15 or 20, or we don't make money. But don't tell me this is the option, because then I will not invest there, because I have opportunities around the globe. So stabilization of the rules of the game, taxes that are according to the returns of investments, and security in terms of trust in the market are key to attract that investment. First, the local one, which is the largest one. The private investment from Latin America is sitting in Miami, in Luxembourg, in Switzerland. And then the foreign investment to come and, with the government support, extract value out of our natural resources at the right page.
Any final thoughts from anyone on the topic?
I would say that the tax burden is a challenge, but let's not blame it on it to keep paralyzed. No? There are so many things that can still be done, and let's get into action. That's my call.
Yeah, one final comment from my side is the more digitization on the countries, the better. I think we have proofs. The simpler it is for citizens, the better. The easier for people, the better. So I think this is what we should be working together.
Just to endorse what Andrés just mentioned about trust, we need to have reliable institutions across Latin America. With that in place, all the big tech companies, everyone will put their resource, they'll put their money, their brains there to work hard to help the companies to prevail. So I totally agree that this is key.
And to that point, what is the narrative that we are telling ourselves and telling the world to really achieve that, to really develop, and how can we come to a narrative that unites us and make us really work together?
Thanks so much, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now present to you our next Bravo Dialogue, Investing in the Latin America of Tomorrow. Please welcome to the stage the moderator for our next panel.